are back with the Buffalonian podcast. I'm Joe Callie. As always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. It's Bucket Hat Thursday. You're going to be maybe hearing it on a Friday. Whew. I accept my punishment. I'm doing it right now as we speak. If you can see on video, for those of you listening on the audio side of things, I'll explain. I just so happen to be wearing a Chiefs bucket hat that I had in a drawer that I came across, and because I picked against them again, and I'm 0-2 on Super Bowl picks in history on the pod. I said I would start the show out with it. Problem is, I wear headphones, so now I look like a real goofy goober here. So, without further ado, Dom, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, sir.
What were your initial thoughts of the big game? It's been a few days now. It's had time to marinate.
I do have to say, this is the first time I think we're doing StreamYard with the new video, and that the video you chose of produced by Michael Loss when he does like the fade in the end zone is top tier. Sorry for people who can't listen, who can't watch and are only listening. Highly suggest watching the YouTube version, at least for that 40 seconds, because it's good content.
Maybe we'll throw it up on the socials or something so people can see it.
Yeah, I know. But talking about the Super Bowl, I mean, it was all right. I mean, I had a little bit of like a Rams-Bengals kind of vibe where I wasn't really rooting for either team.
Yeah.
I would say I was rooting for a little bit for my pick, and I guess my Super Bowl scores. We'll get into that in a second. But it was all right. I mean, like Thad Brown immediately after the game goes, "This might have been the greatest Super Bowl of all time." I was like, "Bro, like,
I don't know about that.
Serious with that?
Are we 28-3, and you're telling me that the Super Bowl 58 was the best one? Like, there's no way.
Like, listen, was it a cool game? Yeah, I mean, it's a game where you saw a little bit of everything. Like, you saw overtime, 2 possessions, field goal, touchdown. You saw, I know it's not technically a muff punt, but a special teams turnover. You saw a blocked PAT. You saw a couple 50. You saw Steve Christie Buffalo Bill record get broken not once but twice.
Yeah.
Big time kicks, big time plays. Maybe the greatest of all time. You know, we don't know yet. So, I mean, yeah, the aspect of the game had a little bit of everything, sure. Was it the most entertaining game? Probably
not. For most of it.
Like, we're really, honestly, a Brock Purdy completion on third down away from being a 1916 Super Bowl? Like, I don't know, man. I don't even know if this was, like, a top 10 Super Bowl all time. Like, I think if you rattle them off, like, I think you could easily name, like, the game last year was better. The Seahawks-Patriots game, the Falcons game, you could consider to be a better game. Like, the first Bills Super Bowl was a good one. Steelers-Cardinals, that was a fantastic Super Bowl. Like, I don't know, you just go on and on. Like, Panthers-Patriots was a good Super Bowl. Rams-Titans was a better Super Bowl. Like, again, you just go on, and I think you eventually can get to at least 10 that are better than this one. But it still was a good addition of this, out of the 15 Super Bowls, it definitely is probably at least in the top half, maybe the top third, top quarter. Yeah. So it's not bad, but saying, "Oh my God, it's good of all time," it's like, dude, that's like completely recency bias.
Yeah, jump into a conclusion on that one for sure. Recency bias is the best way to put it. Listen, I thought it was a good game too. The officiating didn't really decide the game in a lot of situations, which was nice. There were a couple things, but there are always going to be a couple things. The teams, I mean, at first it seemed just the fumbles. Like, what was going on? Like, it just continued, like, back and forth, turnover. I'm like, oh my God, if anyone took the over in this game, I am sorry. Because what did they end up?
The over was 47.5, I think, and they got to 47.
Oh, yeah. So I guess it ended up getting there, but
getting there, but it also played another 15 minutes. They played 75 minutes. So
if you took the over in regulation, then you didn't get it. You didn't get it either way.
I mean, it was a sloppy game. It was entertaining. Yeah. Like, I enjoyed watching it. Again, that play will be an infamy, man. Third down, 5 yards away, and you win the game pretty much. I mean, I should say you win the game because Jake Moody wasn't automatic, but he still made the kick from 53. So you would assume even if you went further, he would have made it. But at that point, the Chiefs would have had to call a timeout. They would have had one timeout with a minute and 50. Even if you kneeled, they probably call another timeout, 40 seconds. That's a minute 20 plus playing, and the field goal is probably another 10 seconds. So a minute and a half comes off. So they probably, at best, might have had 25 seconds and no timeouts. to get into field goal range, which still, I mean, with Mahomes, you never know. But like,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like that was really the deciding play of the game. That incompletion.
well, everyone's going after Shanahan for not electing to kick the ball in overtime, but receiving it first and letting the Chiefs have it. Well, they would have had it either way with the new rules. So
My only thing about that, and I agree, like I think he made the wrong decision taking the ball. My
yeah,
only thing that like no one has kind of like brought up, which I find bizarre, is that yes, the Niners kicked the field goal. They're also acting though like the Chiefs would have won for every single fourth down. Like if the
mm-hmm.
Chiefs had 4th and 10 from the 13, are they going for it or are they kicking the field goal? You know
Yeah,
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Like, I guess maybe, like, in the perspective of even if you got the ball first and you score a touchdown, like, the Chiefs would have been like, "We're in 4 down territory, and if we score a touchdown, we're going for 2." So the third possession doesn't even matter. But, like, I don't know. I think there's I just, like again, this isn't how it played out, but, like, there was definitely scenarios where if you kick the field goal first, the Chiefs may get into field goal range and maybe 4th down, and they may just decide to kick the field goal, and then you get the third possession that way. Like, saying, "Oh, we're gonna get the
yeah,
third possession because we're gonna score a touchdown, they're gonna score a touchdown, we're gonna get the third possession," that was flawed thinking. The way it actually turned
yeah,
out was a potential where you could have got the ball back if, like, I don't know, you got like a 10-yard holding penalty, and all of a sudden it's 4th and goal from the 14. Like, I think at that point the Chiefs would be like, let's just kick the 30-yard field goal and let's hope our defense, who's been pretty good all day, get a stop. But I don't
yeah,
know. No one's talking about that, which I find bizarre. Like, I could crap on Shanahan because that was a terrible. I still think that was a bad decision, but like,
yeah,
no one's at least like his defense was like either say that, which is like if we go to got to stop, we think they would have kicked the field goal, or the fact of, hey, their defense was tired. We thought we could have got 7 on them. Our defense rest has the momentum. You know, we get a little momentum on our side. We think we could have held them out of the end zone. I don't know, just like,
yeah.
and they didn't, but like,
No, but you're absolutely right. That could be a very sound reason for it, and unfortunately, Mahomed and Kelsey'd, and they did their thing and got down the field there. It's tough. That's the third ring in 4 trips, right? 4 trips in a row.
yep,
Yeah,
not 4 trips in a row, but 4 trips in.
4 total trips. Yeah, Tom Brady handed him the 1 L.
Yep,
That brings me into
they're
my
done.
next question, actually, for you, really quick. So
Uh-huh.
Tom Brady, right, versus Patrick Mahomes. As everyone knows, it's a new GOAT conversation. The new MJ LeBron, right? Except they actually played against each other. Tom Brady gave Patrick Mahomes his first loss in the playoffs. Tom Brady handed him his first Super Bowl loss as well, and his first ever loss, I think. So, is there a head-to-head comparison that goes into the GOAT conversation? Or is that, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I think.
do you think that's more of a, because I've seen that get brought up the past couple days now that Mahomes has 3. That I just had to
Yeah,
get your opinion on it. I didn't know what you were thinking on it.
that's a good question. For my money, I think Mahomes right now, if he continues, would have played the quarterback position as well as any player ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just from what he's able to do, I think he's like the perfect mix. I think this is the best comparison. If even when Brady was playing, everyone would say Aaron Rodgers is the better quote unquote quarterback. Like, he could do more. Like, he could a little bit more athletic, better arm, whatever. But Brady won, right? So I think Mahomes might have that mix of the winning of Brady, but the talent level of Rodgers.
Yeah.
So does that make him the most talented player? I don't know. I think it's hard because Brady got to 7. That's a tough number to get to, first of all. And one of those was against, as you allude to, Mahomes, and he got another ring because he beat Mahomes in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that does have to matter. I'm sorry, like it's just I don't know. I think it has to matter, but again, I view it as Mahomes is the best quarterback I've seen play.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's the greatest ever. Like, I think maybe that's the demarcation where the greatest isn't always the most talented, or maybe has played the position the best, but has just found a way to win. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. I did that.
Yeah.
Can we just do 1A, 1B? Like, why do we gotta like make one person it? Like, I just
Yeah.
I know greatest of all time is like a singular thing, but like, I don't know, man. Why do we gotta take one person down to like tear the other person? You know what I mean? Like, we.
Yeah. No, both have. I mean, I was just asking the question because I've seen it. I'm not, you know what I mean, trying to tear people down and all, but just an interesting thought because of their both their careers. I mean, one's finished and one is still going, and they could be very similar by the end of it. So that's the interesting thing about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes had a better quote unquote start to his career. I mean, I think they're close similarly, but statistically, they individually, I said team success, they're close. Individually, they're not. It's gonna be interesting because again, Brady got to 7, but Brady also had a decade where he didn't win a single one. You know what I mean? Like,
There
so
was a
I think,
slump for a while.
yeah, that would be interesting to see. But no, I don't know. But my final takeaway before we can talk about squares is Mahomes came through, Kelsey came through, Chris Jones came through. Their 3 stars for Kansas City came through in a big way, and that's the difference between the Chiefs and everyone else. Like those 3 guys consistently show up in the big moments.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could
You're not
count on
worrying about them showing up. They're
you
there.
know that like, even when Kelsey had 1 catch for 1 yard, like, I was joking around because he again got I think it was an interception in the 3rd quarter, so he had 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 tackle. I was crapping on him, but
Yeah.
you knew eventually he was going to at least make an impact in the game. Chris Jones obviously had a lot of big time 3rd down pressures, and Mahomes. It's just a difference between everyone else in the league, though. Like, those guys, like, your stars need to be stars in the big moments, and that's why the Bills, you know, to take it to the Bills, that's why the Bills haven't won the Super Bowl or gotten at least to the Super Bowl, is that other than Josh, who is the player that is consistently outside of Josh in this entire run who's consistently showed up in the big moment?
No one.
There might be games like we had a game for Gabe Davis at 200 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, James Cook's big game against Dallas. Like,
no, but I'm talking in the playoffs. Like in the playoffs, like
yeah.
you only really think of Josh, and then like Knox has done pretty well, okay, in the playoffs with touchdowns, like those wild card touchdowns. Diggs had that one really good game against Indianapolis, had that touchdown against the Ravens, but he's been hit or miss. Like,
Yeah.
you just really haven't had like outside of Josh, you just really haven't had like their best players consistently be great in the playoffs, and that's the reason why the Bills haven't won, which is quite unfortunate. But
they're relying too much on Superman to do everything. They need the Justice League, you know. Truthfully, I mean that's what it comes down to.
No, absolutely.
But I think it's square talk time,
square story chat time.
So what you got?
2-5-1, which again I think I crapped out and said that was an awful number. It is, but somehow they ended up winning. Thank you, Jake Moody, for the missed PAT, and a lot of field goals. So your boy is in a family pool. $125 in the 4th quarter is on the line. My dad funds it all. We have 11 squares. My brother goes first, Patrick, because I'm youngest, oldest, and I'm the second. I go, you know what I'm going to do this year? Screw going around like doing one. I'm taking an entire row. So the top row, I take 9 out of the 10. And I did the last two. I think I did the corners. I take 9 out of 10. The number that comes up, San Francisco 2 is the row. And I'm like, gosh darn it, like this is trash. Like no way San Fran gets to 2 in any like realistic probably scenario. Like that's a bad number. And end of the 4th quarter happens. It's 19-19. I'm like, oh my god! Like if San Francisco kicks a field goal, like, they get to 2. Well, San Francisco kicks the field goal. I'm like, oh my god! I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. The only number I didn't have was Kansas City 9. I had Kansas City 1, Kansas City 2, Kansas City 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. 0 through 8. I had all 9 except Kansas City 9. So if the game ended, like if Patrick Mahomes first play in overtime throws a pick, I would have lost. Having the entire row of San Francisco 2, except because I didn't have a Kansas City 9. Obviously, it didn't happen. I won $125, but it was a sweat fest, man. I was like, oh my god. I was like, I didn't need them to score a touchdown because I was like, I can't root for them to kick a field goal because then it's 2-2, but then the game's not over. And at that point, like, the San Francisco 2 could change. Like, I need a tutty here. Patrick Mahomes delivers for me. He delivered.
No, that's sick. You got, I, again, did not win any in our friend pool at all. One, I wanted to ask you, though, ours was quarter by quarter. You ever done a minute by minute?
No. I also had a very religious experience of ours.
Oh. What was that?
I messed up on ours. Like, I screwed up pretty bad at one point because I put 4Q instead of FS for final score.
Mm.
So the fourth quarter ended and it was 9-9. And I was like, oh my god, whoever's 9-9 is gonna be so pissed because in our group I was like, we should just do final score. And I was like, oh my god, I put down 4Q. And who else is it? But the initials read JTL.
Oh no.
John Timothy Loss, my
Mm-hmm.
father. So he was all right with it. He just gave me a ton of shit for it. So
Oh yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think I'm ever gonna live that one down, but we dodged a bullet. Minute by
Well,
minute, though. That
yeah,
seemed like
minute by minute.
I don't know. 0-0 must have been I mean, what? It was 0-0 then 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That must have been some amount of money.
My parents did one. You get $1,000 a minute. It was a big pool.
Wait, time out. What's the buy-in?
You get $1,000 a minute. Everyone, I think it's like 500 a square, and you get like a couple squares. It's like a higher price. It's crazy. Okay. Won $3,000.
You won $3,000?
I didn't. My family did. That's in that. I'm not. Are you kidding me? I'm not getting in that deep. Come on. I would never see the light of day again. No, my family did that and won $3,000. Crazy.
What happens in overtime? Is it over? Is
It
just
was
60?
final score. Like it wouldn't end until the game's done. Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
So like it's not over at the fourth quarter. In overtime, it restarts. Do you know?
Okay,
Do you
but how would
understand
they
what I'm
do
saying?
how would they do the squares? How would they do the pot then?
It's still. I don't know. I don't know the logistics
That's what
of
I'm
it.
saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
confused by. Like, how would
Well,
they do the pot
I
then?
think you just keep going with whoever has it minute by minute if it's that score. You know what I mean?
How much do you get a minute if you win, though? If you're winning, I should say. Like, if you had 0-0, and after the first minute, it was still 0-0 as it was. Like, how
1,000.
much do you win? You win $1,000 if you got
Yeah.
So if you got
That's what I'm
0-0, you
saying.
probably won like $20,000.
Yeah, one of my buddies I was watching it with said someone won like 15,000 on squares or something like that. One of his
What?
friends.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
insane. So the
Yeah,
buy-in's $500?
I think something like that. Yeah, it was high. It's crazy.
How many squares?
I think 3? No, hang on.
Because
Hang on.
500 times 100 is what, 50,000? That's
Yeah, I
it.
told
I
you
think
it's a
that's
big
it.
pool.
It's more than that, Joe. Because what if it's $1,000 a square? If $1,000 a minute, that's 60. That's 60 times 1,000. That's 60,000. It's like 500 a square, more than 500 a
Yeah.
square.
It's got to be something like that.
Holy cow! So like oh my,
I think everyone split it on that side. You know what I mean?
oh my god! I could not live with that. Oh my
No,
god,
I would
that's
lose my
too much. I
mind.
could put $10 down on a square. I'm chill with that. Maybe 20.
Yeah, but they ended up coming back with $3,000. Crazy.
A profit
Insane.
or just $3,000 of like?
No, they won 3,000 on top of their buy-in.
God dang! Oh my
Yeah.
god, that's
a crazy square story. That's what I wanted to tell you about.
I'm telling you
like
right
you said,
now, as friends, we were never doing that.
no. That would get toxic really quick with that amount of money on the line. Let me tell you.
Holy
Not
cow.
like any of us even have that, I think, to lay down or anything like that. But
Oh my god.
no, that was my square story for you. I wanted to get your take on that crazy high price.
That might have been better than mine. I thought mine was pretty good, like the one number one, but
yeah, yours is attainable for 90% of the population. My
sure, the people that the listeners could relate to. Yeah, so I think I understand a little better. So like if you, me, Stash, Dish, and Ginge,
yes,
if the 4 of us went for 1 square, that's what, $1.25 a piece for all of us. That's $500, and then we would each get 25% of that singular square. So what? There's 100 squares. That must have been like, I don't know how. That must have taken weeks of planning or
minute by minute. Yeah, it was a lot. I remember the conversations. I overheard a little bit, but
I don't think
yeah.
I don't think. I mean, that might be a great thing to put on your resume, though. Like, hey, organized the $60,000. Oh, organize and manage $60,000 of squares.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
But okay. They're going from Super Bowl squares to Super Bowl to Josh Allen, which hopefully one day we'll, we don't have to skip to.
It'll all be one conversation. It'll all be one conversation one day.
Briefly, there was news on the new Bills Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said 64% will be covered. It looks like from the image, the entire 300 level will be covered, and then a little bit of the 100 level, but not a lot.
Not as you get closer to the field, yeah.
But it seems like people who have season tickets in the 300 level just made themselves some money because that seems
it
like
became that much more appealing now because yeah.
So as people like you and I who love to sit in 300s, maybe a little tougher for us to get a ticket.
Yeah, we've done it in the freezing cold.
Yeah, maybe we had to go down to the 100s in the snow, but yeah, it looks cool so far. I mean, there's really not much to add. It looks like it's gonna be pretty nice when it's over, but exciting that there's not that much to look forward to with the Bills right now as the season just ended. So it's cool to look at that for
It's
like
the most exciting news that we can get, other than Josh Allen playing golf with Tiger Woods. But
that was
speaking
also
of,
cool. Big
yeah, that
dog.
was pretty cool. Yeah, big dog, big dog. Um, you were
But
mentioning something about Josh. What were
yes,
you gonna say?
Joshua. So I've seen this circling around, and I guess there's two questions involving this. Where would you put Josh all time quarterbacks, and where do you think he is compared to the league? So like last year, I'm gonna say it. Like I think we had him 3. I think we were really high on Burrow. I think all of us were at 2. I think we were like, Josh, we love Josh, but then maybe it was just like recency bias, a little bit of Burrow of like what happened with Josh at the end of with the elbow and all that. This year, it seemed like midway through the season, it was going to be another like somehow he was going to drop more because of what was going on with Lamar and all that. But I think before we talk about the all-time one, so we'll talk about the regular season, like the comparable to the league now. I think he's 2, and honestly, this might be. I don't know if it's controversial, but I think most people who follow football, like the analysts would agree. Like I think he's closer. This isn't like he's like close to Mahomes. This is not what I'm saying. But I think he's closer to Mahomes than whoever quarterback 3 is.
Yeah,
Like I think he's Drake May. I think like Caleb Williams, number 1 pick. Drake May kind of close, but not really. And then I think there's a drop off to quarterback 3. I think that's like Josh Allen, comparable to the whoever you have as quarterback 3, which I think right now, in my opinion, will probably be Lamar.
yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. Like we say frequently, Mahomes is in his own category. It's not QB1. It's literally just I don't
Mahomes.
even know what to call it. Mahomes tier, and then you have tier 1, 2, 3, 4 from there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just how it is. And Allen is in tier 1, along with Lamar, along with Joe Burrow, those guys. But he's definitely the upper end of tier 1. There is a drop off between Allen and the others, and it's not saying the others aren't great, like you said. But Allen, just the physicality he brings, the talent he has, and the way he's honed it in, um, I think he's above them any day. Who would you want
Sure.
more on your team is the question.
Well,
You know?
I don't know if it's that, but it's the perspective of he does a lot of things well. I think he could take care of the ball a little bit better, but like as a dual threat, he's always going to have those statistically like be a one-man offense. And in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs, like he's played really well in the playoffs. Not like it's not his fault that they've lost. Like he's played very well. I think there's a great stat. I can't remember who posted it, but they were talking about Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, who won an all-time defensive coordinator run. Again, probably should make the Hall of Fame. Like, if we're being honest, like I know like the coordinators don't make the Hall of Fame, and he was a bad head coach. I shouldn't say he was a bad head coach. He was a bad situation, and I think they went like 10-30 with the
Yeah.
St. Louis Rams in the 2010s. But like he took down Brady. He took down in the last 2 years. I think he has 4 rings as a defensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure. I
Mm-hmm.
might be wrong on that, but for my money, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. But there was a great statistic about comparing Dolphins, Bills, Ravens, Niners, EPA throughout the season, and then when they play the Chiefs in the playoffs. And all of them have significant drop offs.
Oh yeah.
Like really bad drop offs. Like close to a tenth of a quarter of an EPA, which is a lot. Point. The only one who doesn't have a drop off is the Bills. The Bills actually get better. I think the Bills are at 0.1 in the whole before they played the Chiefs, and they went to 0.14. Like they're the highest by a lot, because I think the Niners were like 0.01. I think that might be the second one. So like the Bills' offense under Josh Allen was the best offense performance against the Chiefs defense that was also at full strength. Like people forget, like they lost a couple of guys to when they played the Ravens, and then they weren't at full strength against the Niners. So another thing to put on Josh's crown as QB2 is that he had a good performance. Like, and
Yeah.
Joe,
Always does.
if he doesn't get hit by Chris Jones doesn't make a special play, like they would have won that game. And again, I don't want to play the what if game because it's going to hurt my feelings. It's the same thing I felt like after the 2021 season. Really felt like the Bills could have beat either of those two teams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But they didn't make it at the end of the day. But switching to all time, I think this is a tougher discussion. Like, it's a tougher to quote unquote defend Josh because he doesn't have the
Yeah.
accolades. Like, he has one second team All Pro in 2020. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, which is whatever. The Pro Bowl is whatever. Really, I personally view him as a 4-time Pro Bowler because if he just would have said yes instead of golfing, he would have been like in 21 and this year. Like,
Yeah.
he should probably be a 4-time Pro Bowler, but he's only gonna be a 2-time Pro Bowler because he would rather golf than play in the Pro Bowl. Doesn't have MVPs, only the one conference championship experience, game, no Super Bowls. So I don't know. It's hard because all time is really like legacy, but he's just been so good. And I guess listen, he's not close to the top 10, right? I think you could say like the 10th best quarterback of all time might be Brett Favre, and Brett Favre has 3 MVPs, a Super Bowl, and another appearance. Like,
Yeah.
but is top 20 out of the question? I don't know. I think it. Where would you like? Is top 20 right now? Is he 20?
I would say so. He's lower end of 20, I would say. You know what I mean? I don't think he's, like you said, the accolades, unfortunately, are one of the bigger measuring tools for quarterbacks all time, right? And wins aren't a quarterback stat, quote unquote. That is not the case, unfortunately. So Mahomes has 3 Lombardi trophies. You have none. Like, it's different. You're not, even though you play similarly, you play the same kind of game, until you get those same accolades, you will not be talked about on the same conversation. That's just how it's going to be. A lot like these other guys. I mean, you think back to the 90s, right? Elway, Marino. Elway eventually won one. Marino won 2. Yeah. Marino did not, right? I mean, it's just, and he was one of the better passing quarterbacks in
he didn't win one, but I think people would have Marino in the top 10. I think he could get
that's
there.
what I'm saying.
But yeah, I think there's a path where you get there. I mean, hopefully we don't discuss that, but right. So looking at Pro Football Reference at their Hall of Fame monitor, Josh has 38.43 value or whatever, which is 79th among quarterbacks.
Wow.
The average is 103.58. So I know I will say this. He's only played 6 years. Right? Am I wrong? No, 6.
This was his 6th season. Yeah, you're right.
I don't think accolades are everything because, I mean, I'm just reading some of the names off in front of him, and he's better than Drew Bledsoe. He's better than Carson Palmer. Like, those guys, this is a longevity stat, right? The monitor thing is really a longevity. Like, a lot of these guys, like Carson Palmer, played for over a decade. Like, Drew Bledsoe, like, those guys played half the season. Now, Lamar is way up there because he has 2 MVPs. I think he's at 69, which is insane. Stafford's up there. So, like, again, I think it's a little weighed out from you had to win accolades, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation involving Josh, because the worst, actually, I think it's funny, the worst one in the statistic to be in the Hall of Fame, I think, is Jim Kelly.
Yeah, because
59.1 is the worst Hall of Fame, worst quote unquote Hall of Famer if you talk about quarterback stat. So I don't know. Again, it's a little bit of a flawed statistic.
Yeah, it is a little bit, but it's an interesting question to ask because you got to think back to all those all-time greats too, right? Like the Elways and Marinos. Like, I'm looking at an NFL list right now, right?
Yeah, and but those guys already have. Yeah, but to not spend too much more time, I think right now, if his career kept going on the way he did, I think he'll be in the top 20 with no ease.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I think if he plays 12, 15 years, I think he's going to get an MVP. I think he's going to get a couple Super Bowls. I think he could get to the top 10. I think there's a realistic possibility he gets to the top 10, but I think he does have to. I think he's going to make it the Hall of Fame as long as he stays healthy. But he does need to start, when we talk about all time, needs to get some accolades. But I think those will come with
time, truthfully. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, he's Peyton Manning to Tom Brady. That's just what you're dealing with at this point. So Manning eventually got his flowers. Remember how long that took? He was just trashed for his turnover-prone gameplay, all of that. So
he'll get his. But transitioning to the Sabres for a brief point. Sabres, last time we saw them, had that crushing defeat against the Stars, but they played 2 games since then, a 3-1 loss to St. Louis and a 7-0 drubbing of the Kings. They played tonight against the Panthers, which I don't know if we'll have the square out by that time, but we don't know the result. But God, I hate Buffalo Sabres, man. I hate the Sabres. I hate the Sabres. They just bother me so much. 2 games come out of the break, the kind of like whatever performances against the Dallas and St. Louis, and then they just completely kick the Kings' ass. Like, what the heck?
And UPL looks like the goalie of the century all again.
UPL
he's been playing well though, even in the losses.
UPL since December 30th is number 1 in the NHL and goals saved above expected. Like, he's actually really good.
That double hip replacement set him up for success. That's all I'm saying.
Well, this is what my frustration is that the Sabres are actually on 5-on-5, or like I think they're 52% in expected goals for. So they're above average on 5-on-5, and they're getting good goaltending, and we are still 10 or 8 points out of the playoffs. And why? It's because the PK is whatever, and the power play sucks. Like, it's awful. Like, the reason why the Sabres, the number one reason why the Sabres will not be making the playoffs is because their power play is awful. And I'm sorry, you just like. This is why, like, if we're putting blame, the 3 coaching, players, general manager / I just count roster and to the GM, they all deserve blame. I just think a different coach could got so much more out of this group, at least special teams wise. Like, even if it didn't have to even be the head coach, but make an assistant coach, that make a different power play, like. If they were just league average on the power play, they might be in the playoffs right now. And I think that to me is the frustrating part. The deadline's coming up. I think they should probably try and sell out some pieces. And I don't know. I think that's the most frustrating part. So you're getting a good season out of UPL. Levi, at least now seems they have a plan of like, hey, he's doing well in Rochester. Let's keep him in Rochester and develop. Ryan Johnson's getting a good run. Cousins seems to have come back to life a little bit. They've looked really good. Benson, him, and Peterka have played really well. I know Jacqueline going down sucks, and Owen Power not being injured, and Wilson being injured. It's just, I don't know. It's definitely it's just been a frustrating season.
It has, and it really has just subverted expectations in the most horrible way. Because going into the season, I know we were talking playoffs. Like I was almost guaranteeing the Sabres were going to make the playoffs, playing the way they did last year. And look at what happens when they play that way, Dom. They rally against teams 7-0 when they play that game.
Yeah,
and it's just like I don't know. It's just frustrating. And I don't know if Paul Hamilton earlier today said until he says otherwise, it's UPL's starting net. That's how the Sabres are going about it.
As long as he's not going to get hurt.
He's your best goalie. You can't lose him.
Well, why would you start Comrie at this point? He's awful, and I'm not moving on Levi anymore.
No,
again,
because Levi's doing all right in Rochester right now.
It's just frustrating. I think a big conversation is Casey Middlestat. Like, what do they do with him?
Yeah.
My money is this. I don't think they should trade him. I think they're just going to have to go to arbitration with him. And in arbitration, you could either, the arbitrator agrees on, what specific amount you're getting, like $5 million or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the team can have 1 year, say, okay, we'll do that for 1 year or 2 years. The Sabres should just do that and whatever number the arbitrator decides you do when you say 2 years. And figure out that situation in 2 years. Like, I hate kicking the can down the road, but you're just going to kick the can down the road. For maybe your salary cap situation's better. Maybe you have to move him, but like, I just think he's played well enough where I think you're creating a hole in your roster, and hopefully the arbitrator, doesn't completely screw you over and he doesn't have a super high salary cap. But I mean, I just don't see where they move. Like, if they're going to move him, they're going to move him for a top 4 defenseman, which is chill, but that top 4 defenseman is also going to be just equally expensive as he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you're right. And he's arguably been one of the more consistent Sabres on the season. I mean, he's got trade value. He's got value to him now after being our most hated Sabre, I would say, a couple of years ago. where we were literally just dogging on him every episode because the guy was he had that one graphic. Who was with him on that? Was that Jacob Bryson down there with him? Like
Yeah,
the
I don't
lowest
remember.
productivity or something, and it was like everyone else was up here and they were just down here by themselves. And I was like,
Yeah, I
no,
remember what you're talking.
Middlesex just needs to go. But no, since the second half of last season and this whole season, that guy's really just put it in gear, and I don't know, he's been doing all right. So I would, like you said, take him to arbitration and see what happens at that point. You know what I mean?
He's like that. He's not a core player. I think core is the wrong word. He's Alex Tuck. Like Alex Tuck to me is not in the core. Like the core is probably Tage, Cousins, Dowling Power. Like you can only probably have 4 players in your core, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Like those are your core 4. I mean, you've signed them all the long-term extensions. You've established your core, but you need secondary pieces like Tuck and Nose had to be successful. So yeah, I think doing that is the best move. And I don't know what they do if Samuelson. I just like this team is just so weird. Like they're on like a 80-point pace, if that, somewhere around there, 23, 25, and 4. They're actually getting the goaltending, and they're worse. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to continue doing the same dance. I think they have to be aggressive this offseason and really improving the roster. And be willing to move some. Like, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I don't think any prospect that the Sabres currently have is untouchable.
No, 100%. I agree with you on that.
Like, I think
you might have to purge some of them, truthfully.
the only one who I would
value.
Maybe not Levi, like just because I think
goalies
are weird.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like go back on my point, but skater wise, like Savoy, Kulik, Roseanne, Oslin. I don't really count Benson as a prospect. I just count him as an NHL player. So I think maybe I don't know how comfortable I would be trading him away just because I know he could play in the NHL. Like that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah.
But anyone not in the NHL who's deemed a prospect, I would not hesitate to trade. You have a lot of them
that teams would be interested in, that are looking to rebuild and start from scratch in some places.
Like goaltending for me isn't as big. And if UPL can continue to play this way the next couple months, like him, Levi, maybe you add a veteran goalie in the off season to just kind of bridge it between Levi and whoever you get, so you don't have to have Levi in that role as the second string, but backup. And to me, it's just adding maybe a couple pieces forward wise, but maybe that's internally. No, maybe that's Kulik. Maybe I don't know. And then defensively, I think they need to add a piece, but they got to figure out kind of what to do with some of these guys that contracts are coming up. A la Middlestat, a la Henry Yukiharu. What are they going to do with Connor Clifton? Because that contract looks awful, and I think they should get out of that. Like,
yeah.
But what is the price tag to dump a 2-year, $3.3 million contract? Like, what's the price tag you had to attach to trade that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
No, there are questions, and we have no answers, and we won't have answers.
And Samuelson. Samuelson's like the biggest question mark. It's like, what the heck do you like? He has 6 years left. You're not getting. I'm sorry, you're not trading that contract. Like, no one's going to take you on that contract. He plays a role, but like he's overpaid and injury prone. Like,
it's just I feel like they've set themselves up in some spots for failure, and it's just not a good vibe, like that specifically.
But they play tonight against Florida. Yeah, Sam Reinhart comes to town, or lad,
on pace to score his 40th goal. What a season he's having.
In Minnesota on Saturday, home against Anaheim on Monday, and Wednesday in Montreal. Hopeful for a good stretch here, maybe get some momentum. I just want to. They're not going to make the playoffs, but I just want to continue to see UPL play well. I'd like to continue to see Zach Benson play well. I'd like to see that line, the whole line play well. I'd like to see Tage kind of getting back to himself. I don't go into games anymore if they have to win or lose, because I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have them win, but
it's mathematically possible. It's just not going to happen.
I'm just now focused on the individuals. Like, I want individually these players to continue to take steps in their development, so that when next year comes around, they're ready to take another step, and we could be hopefully talking playoffs this time. But I think that will do it. I don't have anything else to say for the Sabres. I will say this though. I think next pod, maybe not next pod because I don't want to put that all on myself. That's a lot of pressure. But I do remember we did a preseason pod, and we had about 20 questions that we asked. Like, hey, these are the questions that are going to define the season. I think next pod I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna write down the questions, and we're gonna see where we are with 2 months left in the season.
I love it. What a great idea. And I do have one last thing to say.
The bucket hat, man. The bucket hat is just giving me brain power.
I know mine's halfway across the room right now. I'm not putting that back on either. But one last thing to say about the Sabres. They're 6-0 with Jacob Bryson starting on the defense. Without further ado, that's going to do it for this edition of the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Callie. As always, I'm joined by none other than Dom Loss. And Dom, how do we always end these, buddy?
Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills.